Hey, it's Sam from Sugar Spun Run, and today we are making a creamy and perfectly spiced pumpkin cheesecake pie. This might just be the perfect Thanksgiving dessert, especially if you're a pumpkin lover, which I'm not, but I will admit I really enjoy this pie. It blends my personal favorite dessert, the classic cheesecake, with my husband's favorite dessert, pumpkin pie. The end result is a perfectly spiced dessert. It balances both flavors so well, and as a bonus, it's actually a lot less fussy to make than either of its originating counterparts. It's fun, it's cute, so let's go ahead and get started by preheating our oven to 325 degrees, and let's make our crust. First thing you need is 1.5 cups of graham cracker crumbs. Drop those in a mixing bowl. Then 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar and 1 tablespoon of firmly packed light brown sugar. We're going to mix this up. Just going to use a spatula because that's what's closest to me. Make sure you break up any lumps in that brown sugar. The next thing we're going to add is 7 tablespoons of melted salted butter. This should be melted, but you don't want it to be super hot because it could melt the sugars and it could make your pie crust a little bit more likely to be greasy. So I'm going to just pour this in, and you guys know we don't waste butter around here, so we're going to scrape out every bit of butter. My gosh, we almost forgot some. Whew. And then we are going to just toss these ingredients together until all of the crumbs are moistened by the butter. All right, now I'm going to be making today's recipe in a 9-inch pie plate. If you want to use a larger one, like a 9.5 or 10, that's fine. Just note that your baking time will likely be reduced by a little bit. Let's press this firmly into the bottom and up the sides of the pie plate. I'm going to use a glass to help me do this. Now there's no pre-baking this crust. We're just going to set it aside and let it sit while we prepare the filling. So in a mixing bowl, we are going to combine 16 ounces of cream cheese. This should be softened to room temperature or near to room temperature. And you also want to make sure you're using this brick style type of cream cheese. Don't use low fat, don't use the kind sold in tubs. The pie just won't set up properly if you do. Super frustrating. For the sugars, we're going to be using 1/3 cup of granulated sugar, but also to give this pie a little bit more depth of flavor, I also like to use 1/3 cup of firmly packed light brown sugar. I'm sure you could also substitute dark brown sugar, which would make it even richer. Now I am going to be using my electric hand mixer today, but of course you could use a stand mixer instead. We'll beat these ingredients together until they're smooth and creamy and lump free. And again, I used a mixing bowl that's too small. Now, thanks to the crust in today's recipe, you have a very small likelihood of this pie cracking, but one thing I recommend to help avoid cracks and to help keep your pie from puffing up in the oven and then shrinking in on itself is just make sure you don't overmix anything. You don't want to whip too much air into the batter. Don't beat it on too high of a speed. Yes, get everything nicely combined, just don't overdo it. So let me take a look at this, make sure everything's nice and smooth, no lumps. This looks pretty good. So we can add our sour cream and vanilla. You'll need 1/3 cup of full-fat sour cream. You could substitute plain full-fat Greek yogurt instead. And I like to set this out the same time I set my cream cheese out, just so it can also be room temperature or near room temperature. We'll also add a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and we'll stir everything together again. All right, the next thing we need to add is our eggs. So you will need 2 large eggs for today's recipe, and they should, like the other ingredients, be room temperature. So we're going to crack these in a separate dish. And to reduce the chance of overmixing the batter, we're going to lightly scramble these in this dish. Just give them a head start. And now we can add them into our batter. Now I'm going to scrape the bowl. I want to make sure everything's combined and there are no lumps remaining or pockets of unmixed cream cheese in the batter. And since this looks good, now I'm going to divide the batter. We have our classic cream cheese layer, and then half of this, or about half of this, is going to be turned into a pumpkin layer. So you can either measure out 1.5 cups of this batter, or I'm just going to weigh it. You'll need 345 grams. Kitchen scale is actually how I weigh all of my ingredients that I use. If you don't have one, I highly recommend it. I will link to the one I have in the recipe description because really everyone should have a kitchen scale. All right, this can be set aside for now. And to this, we are going to add, if I can find a spatula, 2/3 cup of pumpkin puree. This is 100% pure pumpkin puree. Do not buy the stuff that is pumpkin pie mix that has other ingredients added that you don't need. This is sold canned, usually in the baking aisle. That's 2/3 cup. We'll also be adding 1.5 teaspoons of pumpkin spice. I do have a recipe for making your own homemade pumpkin pie spice. If you can't find it in the store, there is a video for that. All right, I'm going to stir this in. I just did that pretty briefly, so I know it's not well combined, so I'll finish it with the spatula. Now let's grab our pie crust, and we're just going to alternate dolloping each batter into the pie crust. I like to use ice cream scoops for this, just because it keeps things from getting too messy, but you could just use spoons or whatever you'd like instead. We'll do a couple dollops of the classic stuff, then the pumpkin. This is not an exact science. All I'm really trying to do here is make sure that you get a pretty good balance of both the cheesecake and the pumpkin mixture in every bite. But we're also going to swirl it, and that is going to help too. Now grab yourself a butter knife, and we are going to use this to swirl the two mixtures together and to help even it out so you've got a nice even layer. A little bit more white there. All right, this is now going to need to bake in the center rack of your 325-degree Fahrenheit preheated oven for about 40 to 50 minutes. I give a range because exactly how long is going to depend on a lot of things, like how deep your pie plate is, what material it is. This exact situation here takes 45 minutes in my oven, but keep an eye on yours. I will show you how it should look when it's finished baking. The pie should be mostly set, the edge is nice and firm, but you'll still have a slight bit of jiggle in the center. All right, so I want to give this a little jiggle so you can see exactly how it looks when it's finished baking. I'm just gently jostling it, but the edges are set, just a little jiggle in the center. Now, this is going to need to cool. I let it sit at room temperature for about an hour, and then I put it in the fridge where it's going to need to chill for about 6 hours, preferably overnight. All right, well, that pie is going to need to chill overnight. I do have one I prepared yesterday that we can go ahead and dig into. Now, this pie would be great topped with whipped cream if you'd like. I don't have any of that today, but now I'm kind of wishing I did. I'm not nervous on camera anymore like I used to be when I first started filming, but something about cutting that first slice every time, I get all anxious. The first slice is the hardest to cut and always the ugliest, so that's a big part of it. And that is how you make this fun, adorable pumpkin cheesecake pie. I will admit, not my favorite pie on the Thanksgiving table, but despite it being pumpkin, this is one I absolutely will eat. I really hope everyone enjoyed this recipe. If you try it, please leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. I always love hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. It's not bad for pumpkin. I think you're gonna like it. No, my husband's gonna like it. Hey, Zach.